How does all the printing of money crush the little guy? How do leftists want to have their favorite politicians get credit for a stock market at all-time records, but at the same time want to blame the greedy corporations for raising prices? Does it seem like these two can coexist side by side? These are the questions that I'm going to answer. I was sucked into left-wing Twitter the other day and was able to witness the dichotomy of the leftist mind in motion. Those whose economic understanding approaches zero. Here are two posts that I saw, one right after the other. Can you please stop talking about the Trump economy? 4 years ago, the Dow closed at 19,200. Today, the Dow crossed 40,000 for the first time ever. So yes, we are better off today. And I get that people were upset about higher prices, but what I don't get is why people are furious at Biden instead of the corporations who raised prices to rake in record profits. Generally, the elevated prices that we see today are what lead to record profits, which naturally is the fault of the greedy corporations, and what leads directly to the stock market highs, which of course, Biden and the Democrats deserve credit for. My job here is to explain the mechanics of these two phenomena and what is driving them. First of all, when you spend more money than you have, as both Trump did during 2020 and Biden has been doing here on hyperdrive, you are flooding the system with dollar bills, which raises pricing levels the same way as if you doubled the level of water in a bathtub. The level at which all rubber duckies and boats within rest will rise with it. A rising tide raises all ships. Think of an economy, for example, with $1 million available and 4 houses. Suddenly, you double the money supply to $2 million. What then happens to the price of the houses with all that extra made-up cash circulating around like a tornado chasing these assets? Well, the housing price will, as you've likely guessed, double. But did everyone get wealthier because the nominal price of housing went up? The number of homes, well, that didn't change, only the pricing mechanism. Similarly, the price of everything in the economy has doubled. That means the value of the house retains the same buying power in terms of real goods and services, except you'll have to pay taxes on these so-called profits, so you've actually lost value to the government if you sell. And let me emphasize one thing here. The true wealth of an economy, of a country, is measured by the amounts of goods and services available to its people, not the price function by which they are measured. To prove this, let's take a look at by far the best performing stock market until very recently on the planet. I'll take a trip to good old, peaceful, politically stable Africa. And let's land in Zimbabwe, where the stock market index 8 years ago rested at the 100 level. It subsequently rose to 3 million, from 100 to 3 million. Seriously, that is a 3 million percentage gain in the market. I guess that means today Zimbabweans are the wealthiest, best off people on planet Earth. And they can come here and buy up all of America. End of story, right? Well, no. Actually, there are less goods and services to purchase in Zimbabwe today. From the removal of white farmers from the land that they own by the state, just merely yanking it from them. In other words, from meritorious production to reparations and DEI. And this is from the Cato Institute. The production of farm goods in Zimbabwe dropped significantly after the land reform program, which involved the removal of white farmers from commercial farms. Estimates suggest a decline of around 60 to 80% in terms of total food production within 1 decade. Way to go, reparations, DEI. Sharp decline in output realized by commercial farmland, which lost a significant portion of its value. Food production, especially export crops like tobacco, plummeted. From the breadbasket of Africa, Zimbabwe today faces food insecurity and requires international aid. Those are just darn good policies, aren't they? But anyways, let's bring those same policies here in America that prove horrendously destructive abroad. But this doesn't change the fact that according to the same people advocating for such policies, these leftists, the US is by definition better off with the stock market that is hitting all-time highs, even though the market on a percentage basis has not advanced one iota, not even 1% as far as Zimbabwe's did. So why then is the stock market going up? It could be advances in productivity, greater efficiencies. We've seen some of that with artificial intelligence. That does, in fact, raise the standard of living and give us greater amounts of time. Or it could be the printing of money and the massive deficit spending our government has been engaging in. And as described, what happens when you print all that cash? As the price of inputs like oil and labor rise, prices around the economy do the same. Again, you are merely flooding the bathtub with cash. And let's just say that you are the much maligned grocery store manager. Will you run your business at a loss? No. To continue to serve the public, you are of course forced to mark up that which you distribute from your shelves. But because of competitive pressures, you are still operating on a razor-thin, very low profit margin, which is your incentive to show up and make sure that the business runs smoothly. So if I sold something that cost $10 previously, and suddenly my cost doubled and I had to sell it for $20, assuming a profit margin of 10% for simplicity, my profit just doubled from $1 to $2 at the $20 level. Woo-hoo-hoo! That is record-breaking profits, people! Except that because the price level of everything has doubled, I find myself having the same buying power with said profits as I had previously. In other words, I haven't advanced in terms of real wealth. But the people who are previously wealthy and are able to store their money in a stock market index see the nominal price rises in their assets. Their wealth, their assets are protected from inflation because they have the ability to raise prices correspondingly. The people who are absolutely screwed in this scenario are the workers, the savers, those who have fixed incomes. Laborers, because wages are generally far more sticky and are delayed, it's hard to argue for an increase on a continual basis with your boss, as opposed to the price of oil, which responds nearly instantly when the Federal Reserve announces it is going to flood the economy with currency. And anybody who is saving in cash, with the amount of currency doubling, has seen their share of wealth diluted by 50%. $100 that you have tucked away now gives you $50 in buying power. The government is stealing from you, and the rest of the planet for that matter, because at least for now, the world sees the US dollar as the default store of value. And thus we are even able to export some of the inflation that would otherwise be incurred in the United States to suckers holding our currency. And even then, those who are printing up all the US dollars have the cojones to put the onus, the blame on the grocer, on the mom and pop gas station owner for the rise in prices felt by the consumers, which they themselves caused. And all of these leftists on X, on Twitter, on Facebook, want to give Biden and the Democrats credit for a rising stock market and claim that we are better off than when Trump was president, but blame greedy corporations for record inflation-driven profits, which the stock market directly accounts for when calculating the value of the company. The Elizabeth Warrens, the Joe Bidens, they represent Wall Street. And as they fleece the workers and the middle class, they transfer your hard work into the pockets of the wealthy via cronyist legislation, via printing all of the US currency, and the stifling regulations that are called for and lobbied for, which crowds out competition. But like good little politicians, they will shift the blame to anyone but themselves, and then get their weak-minded acolytes, their propagandist team, and sock puppets owned by them to crow for their supposed successes and put the blame on others for the damage that they themselves caused. It's cynical. It's evil. They crush you, your life work, and your family, and get so many to blame those who are in fact bringing you the products and services that make life livable, and then get their mind virus infected zombies to propagandize for them on the various social media platforms, to gaslight the public, to blame the other side, to blame the average person. And that, my friends, is the reality before you today. My hope is that I've been able to shine enough of light on it for you to see what truly exists, rather than seeing it through the shadows and lies that they intentionally cast upon their own actions to avoid the blame that is deserved.